started here. Good stuff. Good dialogue. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about 1 year into COVID stay-at-home order from California. So it was March 19th, 2020. California laid down a stay-at-home order due to the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. So that was this past Friday, marked 1 year. So we're just a little bit past 1 year since that stay-at-home order was put into place. Now, obviously, we're not still on a stay-at-home order. Things are not, back to, quote unquote normal, but, it is a little bit different. So I wrote down here a list of things that we've learned in this past year that we can also use moving forward. But before I do that, I want to open it up to you for a minute or two. I'm curious, what have you learned in the past year from the stay-at-home order of March 19th to today? What are some things that you've learned? Curious.
I'll start with the obvious. Zoom
Go ahead.
presentations. Zoom listing presentations.
Zoom listing presentations. You have to be able to do a virtual listing presentation. Good. What else? What else have we learned? Either a skill or a mindset or
Robert,
something else. Go ahead, Josie.
The first thing about mindset was that I could work from home full time, from 9 to 12 prospecting.
Mhm.
Well, actually, we used to do it all day long because we
Yep.
couldn't door knock. And that took a mindset.
Yeah.
And it took a while, but you know what? We're liking it.
Mm-hmm.
Josie, before that, did you always just go out door knocking for your prospecting? Was that typically how you did it
No,
before
I
that?
went to I come from a professional background, so I went to the office every day.
Oh, got
Prospected
it.
in the morning, went home and had lunch, and went door knocking after that and previewing and appointments.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. So the ability, the mindset that you can actually work from home, get your prospecting done from home at a high level. I like it. Okay. What else?
And
What else have we
I
learned?
learned that you can be more efficient and get more done if you give yourself restrictions.
So you can be more efficient and get more done if you give yourself restrictions, such as?
Well, like, time expand or the stuff you have to do expands to fill the time that you have to do it in.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you only have 30 minutes to do something and you have to move on to the next thing in 30 minutes, then you get what you need to get done in that 30 minutes.
So as opposed to saying, I have all day to get this done.
Correct. If you have all day to get it done, it's going to take you all day to do it. But if you only have 30 minutes to do something, you get it done. And you also tolerate less stuff if you have to go to the next thing as well.
Sure. That's a great point. It's a great point. Yep. Giving yourself time restrictions. It goes back to the famous Valerie Caro quote that the tighter your schedule, the more freedom you actually have. That if you want to, most people that work feel like they work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is because they have no structure. They're not doing what Melinda's saying. Hey, I got to get this done by 11 o'clock. I got to get this done by this time. You'll get it done. It's a great point. All right. What else? What else have we learned in the last year since the stay-at-home order?
Robert,
Cherry.
I learned how to do a listing presentation because
Cherry learned how to do a listing presentation. And I will say pretty damn well.
Thank you.
Learned how to do a listing presentation. Yeah. Like for some people, they had nothing else to do. Might as well learn how to do something like a presentation or a script or something along those lines. That's great. Good job. Sasha,
I learned a lot from top producers in our company, which I never have a chance to listen.
Learned a lot from top producers. Give me an example. Give me something.
Okay, just like Melinda, Nancy, and all different top producers in our company. And we role play with different top producer agents in Zoom also, and different not even a top producer, but we get to role play with each other more often than before. So that gives us a lot of confidence when we go out and prospect. That's a great thing in Zoom. Love it.
And Robert, to tie on to that, one of the biggest things I've learned from our top producers is the importance of staying in touch with your database. That's the trend I see when listening to all of them.
Robert?
Oh, I thought he just really didn't like what I had to say.
I think I
I was like, was it something I said?
No,
Frozen.
database is good, James. Well, then I'll say something. I know he's frozen. But you know what? Accountability to our own selves. I realized, because of Zoom and everything, the technology is amazing. And I learned so much also with you guys on Zoom and stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to be accountable with ourselves. And that was like a big, big thing for me during this whole pandemic, working from home, not seeing anybody else in person. Big, big for me.
I think you're right, Rosalinda. That's huge. I mean, if there's nobody there to watch over your shoulder or make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do, so it's all self-accountability.
Yes.
Or realizing that for certain people, self-accountability does not work at all.
Well, that's also true. This is where the weak get whittled out.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, if I don't have external accountability, forget it. Like I can say I'm going to do all these things and plan it out the night before, but if there's
Doesn't
no
mean a thing.
consequences,
Doesn't mean a thing.
it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Exactly.
I learned that it's great to see my fellow associates from all the different offices on a daily basis, pretty much.
Wow.
Because before that, we always maybe saw each other at the Mike Berry events, and that was it. So this has been a real good experience getting to know all of the other agents in our company.
I agree. And to add to that, what about the availability of Neil, Robert, Cindy here on a daily basis? Any questions, you can reach right out to them.
It's like we have our own mini office here.
Exactly. I love
I
it.
don't know anybody else except for you guys.
It's funny because I haven't met like 90% of the people on Zoom, like in person. Except for
I
like,
don't think
I've met one person.
I can say I haven't met 100% of you, but I like you all.
Is Robert still lost in oblivion?
I saw him drop off. I'm just waiting for him to come back into existence.
as a coach, James, anything for you guys that you guys have seen in real estate or, things like that? You from the pandemic?
You mean things I've learned from working with you folks since all this?
Yes.
It's a good question. It's a really good question. I mean, and I came in obviously mid-pandemic. I wasn't here until about August or September. So I'm just learning how nice it is, honestly, like somebody mentioned, to have everybody here on a daily basis, have all the 9 offices consolidated. There he is.
Is he?
Robert's back. Robert, you're muted.
Okay, so I've learned that the internet can be quite a task.
That's
So I've learned.
Welcome back.
Jesus criminy.
We kept it going, Robert.
Now that I got my phone working, my internet on my computer's back up. Oh well, such is life. All right, so good
Hey,
stuff.
Robert.
Good stuff. Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks for giving us
Yeah,
a chance to
what
talk about you behind your back.
That's
Robert,
nice.
actually-
Most of you do that to my face. Yes, Michael.
Actually, what I learned is, everything that happened last year was based on mindset. Even though the title is a stay-home order, it looks like we have an office here that we see each other or we hear each other every day. I was noticing that everybody was doing a tremendous amount of business, and even though they say a stay-home order, everybody was going out and on the streets and making the the presentations and getting the listings and getting the sales. So the stay-home order was only just a title. And if you bought it and you just stay home, you won't make any business. And I see all these people making the business. And then I say, yes, it's just only an order, but everybody is getting their listing, signing and whatever, not on Zoom, like 100%. So that was just a mindset. That's what I thought.
Got it. That's great. 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 Good. These are all really good. Really appreciate this. Good stuff. All right, cool. Anything else before I go over the things that I wrote down? All right. So here's what I wrote down. I wrote down a couple things, and I appreciate everyone participating. One, I'm just glad that somebody's paying attention, because a lot of times I think I'm just talking to myself when I'm doing these classes. So it's nice to know that a couple of you actually are paying attention there. All right, good stuff. One of the things I wrote down here, and this is the first thing I wrote down. This is the number one thing to me, was people that want to be successful are going to be successful. People that don't want to be successful are not going to be successful. And I wrote that down because one of the things that I think we really learned in 2020 with everything that's going on is there were a number of people that gave up. And I'm not talking gave up because they were sick or a family member was sick or they had to take care of their family, things like that. All that stuff makes perfect sense, okay? I'm talking about the people that just needed an excuse to not go to work, that needed an excuse to not prospect, that needed an excuse to not get deals into escrow, not show property. There's just people like that that are not going to do it. And yet the people that really put the effort in, that really decided, I want to be successful, I want to be great. Some of you had the biggest years of your entire career, not just our agents, but outside agents, people we've talked to. We know we've talked about some of our agents internally that have had their biggest years ever. Karen Bernardi, who's been in business for 30 years, making millions of dollars a year, had her biggest year ever, and so forth. If you want to be successful, you'll find a way. If success is not that important to you, you'll find a way to not be successful. You will find an excuse. That's the main thing I learned in 2020, okay? I wrote down here, no matter what's going on in the world, hustle wins. No matter what's happening, those who hustle win. Whether you're a brand new licensee, whether you've been in business for 40 years, whether you work the inland part of the state, whether you work the coastal part of the state, whether you work condos, homes, $150,000 mobile homes, or $10 million mansion, hustle wins. People that are hustling, people that are working, people are doing those things, improved, got better. Some of it might not have been in the paycheck. Some people made a lot of paychecks. Some of you may not have had as many paychecks as you would like, but you've got better, you got stronger, you are building a great career because you put in the hustle when most people did not. 50% of agents typically every year do not close a transaction. I'll bet in 2020, if I go back and look at that, that is probably higher, and it's probably going to be even higher in 2021 because there's a lot of people that are going to be completely out of the business. So just so you know what's going on there. So I put that down. Hustle always wins. Okay. People that want to be successful, be successful. People that don't. Okay. I wrote down here, you have no excuse for not reaching your goals. Barring you got sick, barring somebody in your family got sick, you got to take care of a family member, some things along those lines. I get it. Other than that, you have no excuse not to hit your goals. Yes, there are less transactions, yes, it is harder, but there's also far less agents working. It's a mindset thing. Josie talked about mindset. Michael talked about mindset. You know, the idea of we can do this even though it's a stay-at-home order, even though it's a pandemic. It's all a mindset shift that you can go out there and do that type of business. Okay, there's no excuses for that. You can make every excuse, and so nobody on this call, but boy, did I hear a lot of wonderful excuses in 2020 had to tell me, what do you think happened to your business plan in 2020? Okay, I heard some wonderful things from people. COVID. Oh, that's interesting. Other than, I had to start asking the question, other than COVID, Oh no, it's just COVID. All right, okay. And some people you can't help. It is what it is. I wrote down here what I learned in the last year is that no matter what's going on in the world, we are in the talk to people business. No matter what's going on, whether it's your normal business, normal things going on in the world, or there's a pandemic going on, there's a stay-at-home order going on, this is a talk to the people business. And it might be talking to your database, it's talking to just listed, just sold, it's talking to for rent by owners, it's talking to condos that are looking to move out because they're working from home. It's just talking to anyone that's in a situation that they might be looking to buy or sell. It's talking to people that are in financial hardships and they need to sell. We are in the talk to people business. This was a great reminder of the pandemic that we still have to talk to people. Now, yes, we did do a lot of things virtually, but you still had to talk to people virtually. Okay, this is that type of business. I don't think anyone, despite all the stuff that was going on, took any listings without actually talking to the person. And if you did, good for you. I would like to know about how that went. Now, you might have never actually met them in person. You might have done everything virtually, or I know a lot of you were more comfortable doing presentations over the phone, things along those lines. But everything still evolves around talking to people. This is a talk to people business. Okay. The next thing I wrote down here is some of you cut certain expenses out of your business. And I think one of the things we've learned is that some of those expenses did not need to be in your business to begin with. So what I would recommend doing is before you implement some of these expenses back into your business, do a really good dive into what your business looks like so you can decide of whether or not that needs to be in your business. I think this is a really great exercise that we've learned in the last year. We've taken some things out. I know as a company, we took some expenses out and realized we didn't need these expenses. And some of those expenses we did add back in and some of those we didn't. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're taking advantage of that as well and looking at your business and deciding what are you going to keep and what are you not going to keep. Some of it might have been, certain marketing, certain mailers that you might have been doing. Some of it might have been you were paying for networking groups and you weren't getting anything out of that. Some of you might have been paying for other types of things that you couldn't use during the pandemic, or you were just cutting expenses because of everything that's going on and your business was just fine. Remember, we are in the for-profit business. Part of profit is not just making more income, but also cutting expenses. So I would say, look at all the expenses that maybe you cut during the pandemic before you decide to actually bring them back in. All right. The next thing I wrote down here, actually, Josie had mentioned this, is you can work from anywhere and be successful. That's the key. That last part's the key. You can work from anywhere and be successful. But part of that is you have to be honest with yourself of where you can work. Give you an example. Josie says that, I can work from home and do my prospecting at a really high level. And some of you have done that. Some of you actually have the opposite problem, though, is that working from home, yes, I can do it, but I can't do it at a high level because I have 3 kids running around tugging at me as I'm calling a expired listing going, excuse me, when do you plan on moving? That's a hard sell, man. So, some of you have to be honest with yourself about, we do have this thing virtually and we can do all the work from home and still make the calls, but are you doing it at a high level? So I do think the thing we've learned is that we can do this from anywhere. We can do this from the office. We can do this from home. We can do this from wherever and still do it at an extremely high level. But you have to be honest with yourself of, can I do this at a high level given the circumstances at home? A number of you were really pushing on when we were going to be able to go back to the office at the beginning because of that exact situation. You can't do that. I've told you the story before, or either that or maybe Mike's told you. When Mike was started his business, Mike Berry, he worked from his house. He didn't have an actual office, and he had a struggle of working from home because it just didn't feel professional. So what he would do is he would get all suited up and he would walk out the front door in a suit with his briefcase in hand. He'd walk to the end of the driveway, turn around, walk back into his house as if he was walking back to the office, put his coat on, start making his calls and all that good stuff from there. So, sometimes you have to do those kind of things as well in order to, maintain what you're trying to maintain. So I did put that down there. We can do it from anywhere at a high level, but you have to be honest with yourself about where you can and can't work at a high level. Okay, that's the key. The next thing I wrote down here, this is more important than ever. You have to be careful of who you're surrounding yourself with inside and outside of work. More so than ever, it is extremely important to look at who you're surrounding yourself with inside and outside of work. Okay. I say that because there are a lot of people in our business that are not working. And if you surround yourself with those type of people that are not working, you will fall into that trap of why they can't be successful during this situation. Still to this day, because this virus is still going on, things are loosened up a little bit, in terms of the tiers and all these other different things that we're in. But you have got to make sure you are surrounding yourself with the right people. There are a number of agents in our company that I got to tell you, I would not recommend them being the right people to surround yourself with. I have no idea where they are. I know that's not a good thing to say, but I'm being honest with you. There are some people in our company that every week I have to check to see if their license is still with us. I haven't heard from them in over a year, even though we've called. And trust me, as you know, we email and text. You get plenty of emails and texts from the company, and there are a number of people that I don't know where they are. Okay, so you have to be very careful of who you're surrounding yourself with inside and inside the business. Outside of the business is the same thing, because the one thing I've learned in the last year is that negativity spreads rapidly. It goes quickly. And there's all this negativity about, it wasn't even, it turned into, at some point, just got away from the virus. It was, I hate the governor. I hate the mayor. I hate this. I hate that. I hate this. I hate you because you hate the governor. I hate, like it was both sides of the spectrum. And if you get caught up in all that, man, it weighs on you. It weighs on you. It weighs on you quickly. And so we've always talked about for years, you have to be careful who you surround yourself with. But I learned in the last year, it is more important than ever, inside and outside of business, you have to make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people. Okay. And that may mean, like we always talk about, having some difficult conversations with people. There might be some friends that you might realize during this pandemic, some of these people that you haven't seen, you should probably keep it that way. Right? There are probably some people you haven't seen during the pandemic that you probably go, you know what? This might be good going forward. Why don't you stay there? I'll stay here. Okay, and we'll be just fine. So just like I mentioned before, you add some of these expenses back in your business, you might want to double check adding some of these people back in your life, okay? Because it gets draining, it gets tiring. So you have to, I wrote that down, you have to be very careful of who you're surrounding yourself with inside and outside of work, because the negativity just in business and everything else runs rampant. It's really, really intense, okay? The next thing I wrote down here, as far as what have we learned since the stay-at-home order of 2019, is that you have got to be extremely skilled to produce at an extremely high level. I wrote down here, average agents do not get average results anymore. Average agents get below average or zero results. Above average agents get average results. And great agents get amazing results. The good and the bad of the last year, the good is that there's not a lot of agents working, so you have more opportunity. The bad is that means every agent that is working is top level. So you can't sneak past a bad agent to get a deal. Every agent that you're competing with on a listing is a good listing agent. So you have to constantly be working at your skills to be able to compete with that. Otherwise, you're going to lose. Okay, and that's not me being mean. That's just me being honest, that you're going against the best of the best. You're not going against the listing agent that's also a barber. Okay, you're not going against the listing agent that's also a mechanic. All right, you're not going with the listing agent whose main job is to be on the PTA. You're not going against that. You're going against listing agents, you know, like some of the agents we have in our company, or, you know, or some of these other agents we've interviewed. That's who you're going against, which means you have to constantly work on your skills. But I wrote this down here. That's exciting. If competition against the best doesn't excite you and get you all motivated to go do these things, I don't know if sales is for you anyway. You know what I mean? I've joked about this for years, you know, and if anyone ever says this to him, I will lie. But, you know, Mike Ferry has always said for years that, you know, your worst nightmare is that I become a listing agent in your marketplace. I think you should have the mentality, well, why don't you get your license and let's see? I think that should be your mentality. Now, he might get his license and go take all the listings. I have no idea. But the point is, you should embrace that competition. You should embrace that you're part of the best, that you're going up against people like that. You should be excited if you ask the pre-qualifying question and you said, are you planning to interview any other agents? They said, yeah, I'm interviewing Hal Swayze. He decided to move up to LA County. You should go, sweet, let's do this. One, because I know Hal isn't going to go on an unqualified listing, so I know I have a qualified listing appointment. But two, I want to compete against the best. And if you don't have that energy and that excitement for the competition to go against the best, this market is not going to be for you. You're just going to get your butt kicked over and over and over again, and then you're going to quit. So I learned in the last year that there are less agents. That's great, but the agents you're going against are the best of the best. You have to keep working on your skills, and you have to, if you don't already have it, develop that competitive mentality that I am excited that I'm going against the best of the best. Otherwise, it's just not going to work out for you. Okay, you've got to develop that mentality. Okay, I wrote down here, you have to be able to adapt quickly. I learned in 2020. You have to be able to adapt quickly. Boy, when that stay-at-home order hit, and for good reason, a lot of people were frozen. What are we allowed to do? What can we do? Well, we were on a phone call. I could tell you this, and we've probably told this story before. As a management team, we were on the phone March 17th, 7 o'clock at night, March 17th, because we saw that this was going to happen. We saw that this stay-at-home order was coming. We were on a call March 17th, 7 o'clock at night going, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we had already been toying around with Zoom. And so we had decided that night we were going to open up a Zoom virtual office. And then so March 18th, the day before the stay-at-home order, we were in the office early online figuring out how to set up a virtual office on Zoom. So that way, March 19th, when it happened, we were already ready to go. And you had gotten all kinds of emails, calls, texts about it. And we had a few kinks in the beginning, right? I remember the first day we left everybody unmuted. That did not go well. That was not a good idea. Okay. Not only was it chaos, but some people were having conversations they probably shouldn't have been having conversations. Probably shouldn't have been having in public. Okay. So we decided, you know what, we'll mute everybody. Then it was too quiet. So then we decided this open mic thing will leave people muted. You know, so you had to learn. But you have to be able to adapt quickly. That's just the world we live in. Things are constantly moving fast. Yeah, the pandemic is not something that happens every year, but it is a fast changing world. You have got to be able to stay up with the times and be able to adapt quickly to certain things, which means you also have to be open to versatility. You have to be open to the idea that I might have to make some changes. I got to give a lot of you so many credit because I know a lot of you are not technical savvy people. For the most part, present company included, okay? I'm not the most tech savvy person. I'll give it the old college try, as they said, although there's a couple of universities that would agree that me giving the college try is probably not a good idea. But, you know, some of you, even though you're not tech savvy, just took to this and you're doing Zoom presentations and all this other really cool stuff. I give you so much credit. You've got to be able to adapt and be versatile with the times. It's not only important for you as an attaboy, but this is what your client expects. Your client expects that, well, can you handle virtual stuff? Because I think all the buyers are online or doing stuff virtually. So if you can't handle it, how could I expect you to take my listing? Okay, so being able to adapt quickly to the marketplace. On top of that, you need to be able to know what's going on in your market. Because when all this was going on, a lot of people had like, is anybody buying? Is anybody selling? Is anything going on? Is real estate shut down? And there were a lot of agents that didn't know the answer to that. And if you're calling your database and you don't know what's going on in your market, that hurts. And we had a lot of really great business simply because we were staying in touch with people, letting them know what was going on. It was in the scripts. How many times have we practiced those scripts? Well, is anybody buying, selling during this time? That's a great question. As a matter of fact, I did a little research, and it turns out, you know, you have to know the marketplace. You have to know what's going on. You have to know the trends. You have to know what's allowed and what's not allowed. How can you sell property? How can you not sell property? You know, all these other different things. You have to stay up to date with that. You just got to know, okay? And then I wrote down here just a couple more points. I wrote down here, anyone that says they know what's going to happen in the future is a liar. January 2020, when people wrote out their business plans, did anyone expect that interest rates were going to drop into the 2s and even 15 years we're going to start with a 1? No. Now, granted, nobody expected a pandemic, but the point is, you can never say, well, this for sure is going to happen. You have no idea. All you can do is take the information you have today and make the best decision possible. Now, that's something for life, and that's also something for real estate. Okay, you can't predict the future. We can guess, you know, well, I guess we can't predict. We could, I think it might be this, but don't say, well, this is definitely going to happen. We have no idea. Okay, interest rates are lower. People are still buying. People are still selling. There's all kinds of things going on. You have to take the information you have and do what's best with it. It's the same thing that goes today. We talk about this all the time. You know, with rising interest rates, how's that going to affect things? Well, no, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be affecting things too much, but we don't know. And then the last two things I wrote down here, this is an important one. No matter what's going on, pandemic or no pandemic, Southern California is a seller's market. It just is. Okay? No matter what's going on, this is a seller's market. It's not a seller's market because of a pandemic. It's not a seller's market because of the interest rates. It's a seller's market because it's Southern California and people want to live here. And there's more people that want to buy than want to move. So you have got to adapt the mindset constantly that this is just a seller's market in Southern California. Will it always be like this where we're going $70,000 to $80,000 above list price? Probably not. But are we going to get back probably anytime soon to where there's a situation where people can negotiate below value? Probably not either. Okay. We've got to adapt the mindset that it's a seller's market. That's just the part of being in Southern California. And that's a good thing because you live in Southern California, which means you live where everyone else wants to as well. That's pretty cool. The last thing I wrote down here of what I learned in this last year of the pandemic kind of goes very similar into 2020, or I'm sorry, points 1 and 2, is that you've got to take ownership and responsibility and accountability for your own actions. Okay, remind me of something. I don't know if Mike got this, if this is something he came up with or if he read it somewhere, but he said, it's not about the cards you're dealt, it's about how you play your hand. Everyone was dealt the same cards on March 19th, 2020. Now, some people played their hand really well and some people folded, you know, and got out of the game really, really quickly. But it wasn't because of what was dealt. Everyone was dealt the same situation. Some people just handled it differently. Okay. And that's going to always continue to happen. It's not always going to be a pandemic, but it's going to be, well, interest rates are going up or low inventory or this. It's always going to be something. That's part of the business. But everyone is dealing with the same problem. It's not exclusive to you. So it just depends on how you deal with it. How you react is the difference between person A and person B, because it's the same situation. Again, barring someone really getting sick or family getting sick that you can't overcome. But barring that, everyone have the same cards. Everyone have the same situation. Some people just handled it differently than others. So you have to take responsibility and ownership for your actions and what you do, because everyone's dealt the same thing. So when interest rates go up, interest rates are going up, everyone's dealing with the same thing, interest rates going up. So if you say, well, gosh, I had so many buyer transactions, but then the interest rates went up and totally screwed my business. No, you have to be able to adapt. You have to take ownership, because everyone else dealt with that, and some people had a lot of success with it. So that was one of the things I learned in 2020. So look, there's some things that I wrote down here. A lot of great things that we learned. Some good, some bad, but either way, it was a great learning experience for everyone. I got to tell you, just as a wrap up, I'm very proud of the people that are here, that participated. You've made this a success for myself and us as a company. You've done a tremendous job. And a lot of you had success financially as well, or knowledge-wise or skill-wise. You've gotten really better at certain things. So I think the best is yet to come. If we take some of these things we've learned in the last year and apply it moving forward, you're going to be so much farther ahead from those people that quit, because they don't even know that stuff yet. Okay, so as I think Tess said it once and Neil copied it, if you get to where I am, you'll be where I was. And that's where a lot of people are going to be. So a lot of good stuff there. All right, that's all I got. No,
Thanks,
thank
Robert.
you. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate it. This is a fun part for me for the day. Let's go out.